Coca-Cola is known to have invested quite a lot in CSI, corporate social investment, as opposed to corporate social responsibility. So if we could have you address the issue of the investment climate on the continent as you perceive it, being an investor, and secondly, what is it you are doing on the at the community level that we can also learn from?
Thank you very much, Omari.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Omari. Coming last is actually quite an advantage because you can refine your message based on some of the other speakers, and I've certainly had some distinguished ones in front of me. But let me just put some context. I think Coca-Cola is certainly a well-known brand globally, and what I want to do today perhaps is talk a little bit about what people don't know, and then hopefully in those remarks we'll answer your questions, Omari. Coca-Cola is not new to Africa. We first entered the continent in South Africa in 1928. And in that year, although records are not very clear, we sold perhaps 10,000 unit cases. Unit case is the measure of how we measure our sales. By the end of 2012, we will have sold over 1 billion unit cases in Africa. So you can see this has been a big growth market for the Coca-Cola company. When I joined the company 20 years ago, Africa was less than 5% of sales for the Coca-Cola company and less than 3% of revenue. By the end of this year, Africa will be 12% of sales and 10% of revenue. So these are impressive numbers by any chance. But what has that journey been like for us? There are a number of things that I think Coca-Cola has done that have made this sort of story possible. Some of them are internal, and some of them have certainly been enablers that are external and we don't control. But from the internal side, I think that the one thing that Coca-Cola has done consistently has been a commitment to stay. The Coca-Cola company has never left, I should say voluntarily left, any market anywhere in the world. We have certainly left some through circumstances that were not within our control. But certainly not in Africa. We have never left a market in Africa. I remember that in 1994, after the trouble in Rwanda, I visited just two weeks after things had calmed down. And the first business that was back up was the Coca-Cola factory. And the reason that this happens, and the same thing happened in Kenya in 2008 after the troubles there. Again, many businesses suffered, but amongst the first that were back up and running of multinational businesses was Coca-Cola. The reason is there are a number of steps we take as a multinational, keeping in mind that we're a global company, to ensure that we have a local face. So the first thing, as a franchise business, our business in each country is run by local business people. Our bottling franchises are, to a large extent, owned by local people, local investors. They have a local stake in the business and in keeping it going. We also have a very strong policy of having local staff, even at the highest level. And so there is always a need sometimes for a multinational to have expatriates, but again, we keep that to a minimum, so local employees. We also have a policy of local sourcing, so we have local suppliers. That acts as a local face of the business, and it gives your investors a feeling that this is a local business, even though you're a global brand. Our biggest markets today is South Africa by far, followed by Nigeria, Egypt, Morocco, and Kenya. So you can see, and for us, we do not take Africa as just sub-Saharan Africa. We look at Africa as the whole continent. You can see there's a broad diversity in geography in terms of those big markets, with South, East, North, and West represented. And the reason those markets are big for us is because each of those markets has a combination, a minimum of 2, but sometimes 3 of the following things. First is a clear, consistent regulatory environment, okay? The second is an efficient judicial and governance system. And third is you know, a relatively high population and a growing middle class. So if you find a combination of these three things, at least for our business, you tend to find that there is growth. You tend to find that that is a business where you can feel confident to invest in, and you know, you can get your returns, and you can feel confident that you can take them away with you. But for us, Coca-Cola, Africa is not just a business destination, and Omari certainly talked about, you know, community. We've always felt that it's important to have a social license in addition to the licenses that an enabling environment, you know, helps a country to issue. We also believe that there is an unspoken license called a social license, a license to operate in a particular community. And so work in the community is very important to the Coca-Cola company. And I'll just name a few of the projects that we are actually doing on the ground. We have a project called the Replenish Africa Initiative, which is a water project, community water projects. And it has a goal of having at least one, we have several in some countries, but at least one project in every country in Africa by 2015. And I'm pleased I spoke to the minister just before this session that Cape Verde is next on the list. We've just signed an agreement to do a water project which will help 20,000 households in Cape Verde with connections to safe water. This is a project that is fully funded by the Coca-Cola company, but we do have our partners. We partner with USAID, DFID, and a lot of other multilateral lenders to work on these particular projects. We also have a structured market demand program called Project Nurture. This is where we are helping farmers it's a pilot project in Uganda and Kenya to develop their fruit harvests to the quality that the Coca-Cola company can source from them. So we're training them, giving them new seed, trying to remove a little bit of the seasonality from their work so that they can become a consistent supplier to the Coca-Cola company. That work is being done in conjunction with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And so far, the results are very good. We have started sourcing juice from the Uganda farmers. And in another 6 months, certainly by the end of 2012, I think we will be sourcing passion fruit from the Kenyan farmers. This will give them stability. It will increase their incomes. And if this is successful and we can get that model working, it's something we plan to roll out in the rest of Africa. And then we recently announced at the New York UN Week a project called Project Last Mile. If I had $1 for every time I've been asked whether the Coca-Cola company should distribute medicine on the back of its trucks, because people can see a Coke everywhere they go in Africa, but they don't find medicines and they don't find clean drinking water. They don't find so many other things that people require. And in forums like this, I'm always asked, why couldn't you put some of these social items on the backs of your trucks so that they get to these people? Well, it's not as simple as that. The reason that you can find a Coca-Cola in all these places is that every time that bottle or can of Coca-Cola changes hands, somebody makes money. So somebody has an interest in transferring it until it gets to the consumer. So you have to find a model that works for all your social tools and other material if it's to work the same way. And so what we've just announced is we've done a pilot in Tanzania to do just that, and we've helped the Tanzanian government to improve their distribution of medicines throughout the country. The pilot has been very successful. We call it Project Last Mile, and we want to roll that out again across Africa, where we help government to solve some of their problems with distribution supply chain using the expertise that our company has. And then lastly, what kind of keeps us awake at night about Africa? If you'd asked us that question 10 years ago, it would have been the usual suspects, political stability, natural strife, and so on. Today, I think there are three things that keep us awake. And the biggest one that keeps me awake about Africa is the diversity. With 52, 54 countries, depending on how many you want to count, there is a diversity of currency, diversity of language, and for us to unlock the true value of Africa, the way they're doing in China and in India and in Brazil and Russia, these are single countries. Africa has to solve the problem of diversity. And we have to strengthen our regional trade organizations, our regional economic entities. We really have to work to bring those to life. There are many that are working well. but they could do a lot more. And for a multinational and a company like ours that has a business on every country in the continent, that begins to make sense. I've spoken about social license. It's a big risk in terms of making sure that we're constantly connected to our communities, that we never lose that license to operate and do business in those countries. Hence, these social projects are very important to us. And then having a skilled labor force, human capital. Of course, because of the problems with growth in Europe and North America, a lot of skilled Africans are coming back to the continent, and so it's not as big a problem as it was maybe 5 years ago. But when Europe and North America do come back, that's going to be back on the agenda, and we're going to be scrambling again for human capital. So again, training, encouraging people to come back to Africa when they finish their training is going to be very important going into the future. I'll stop there, Omari. Thank you very much.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.